The house had been empty for 7 years before Elias bought it. No one could explain why. It wasn't broken, haunted rumors were vague, and the price was unbelievably low. The real estate agent only said previous owners didn't stay long. On his first night, Elias noticed the mirror. It stood in the hallway between the bedroom and bathroom, a tall, antique mirror with a black wooden frame. He was certain it hadn't been there during the house tour. When he stood in front of it, his reflection felt delayed. His movements were normal, but his reflection blinked a second too late. Elias laughed nervously and blamed exhaustion. At 3:11 a.m., he woke up to a soft tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the hallway. The mirror. His reflection was standing upright while Elias lay frozen in bed. The reflection smiled. Elias slammed the bedroom door shut and didn't open it until morning. The mirror was gone, but his reflection in the bathroom mirror didn't move when he did. It just watched. Elias covered every mirror in the house with sheets. Still, he felt watched. Glass surfaces reflected things that weren't there, shadows that moved backward, smiles that lingered too long. Then the voice started. Elias. It whispered from reflections. The microwave door, his phone screen, even a puddle on the street outside. One night, he uncovered the hallway mirror. It was back. This time, his reflection raised a hand and pressed it against the glass. The mirror rippled like water. You're in my place, the reflection said. You're using my face. Elias tried to smash the mirror, but the hammer passed through the glass and struck his own arm instead. The reflection laughed. I've waited so long for someone who fits, it said. The lights went out. When they came back on, Elias was standing inside the mirror, and something else was standing in his body. The thing wearing Elias smiled perfectly. Neighbors waved. Friends called. No one noticed the difference. Inside the mirror, Elias screamed. He watched helplessly as the reflection lived his life, eating, sleeping, laughing, while Elias slowly faded, becoming thinner, paler, less real. The mirror whispered, "You'll disappear soon, just like the others." Elias noticed faces behind him in the glass, dozens of trapped reflections, all screaming silently. One night, the reflection leaned close to the mirror. "Thank you for the house," it said. "I'll take good care of it." Cracks spread across the glass. Elias felt himself breaking apart. Then darkness. The house went up for sale 6 months later. The owner had vanished without warning. During the showing, a young woman paused in the hallway. "Was there always a mirror here?" she asked. The agent hesitated. "I don't think so." That night, the mirror appeared again, and somewhere inside it, Elias tried to scream. The house was not supposed to be lived in. Everyone in the village knew that, yet when I rented it, no one tried to stop me. They only stared. Long, quiet stares, as if memorizing my face for later. The landlord handed me the keys without smiling and said only one thing before leaving. Never open the basement door after midnight. The first few nights were normal. The house creaked, but old houses always do. On the 4th night, I heard footsteps beneath the floor. Slow, careful, as if someone was counting each step. I remembered the basement and tried to sleep. At 12:07 a.m., a soft knock echoed through the house. Not from the front door. From below. I froze in bed, heart pounding, listening as the knock came again. 3 times, polite and patient. Then a whisper crawled up through the floorboards. "Please, let me out." I covered my ears, but the voice didn't fade. It sounded close. Familiar. Like my own voice, slightly broken. The next morning, muddy footprints circled the basement door from the inside. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things. Stress. Lack of sleep. Anything but the truth. Still, I avoided the basement all day. That night, the whispers returned, stronger, louder. They spoke in fragments, unfinished sentences, begging and warning at the same time. "Don't leave me here. It's cold. You promised." At exactly midnight, the basement door handle began to shake. Not violently, slowly, like someone testing my resolve. My phone buzzed in my hand. A notification. From my own number. The message read, "I'm still down here." My blood ran cold. I hadn't been to the basement. I never went near it. Yet another message followed, then another, photos this time. Blurry images of the basement interior. And in the final photo, I saw myself standing in the dark, smiling at the camera with eyes that were not mine. The knocking stopped suddenly. The silence that followed felt worse. I couldn't take it anymore. At dawn, I grabbed a flashlight and stood before the basement door. The lock was warm to the touch, as if something had just let go. Inside, the air was thick and damp. The walls were covered with scratches, thousands of them, counting marks. Names were carved too, some crossed out. At the far end, a mirror stood against the wall. I stepped closer and realized the reflection was delayed. When I raised my hand, the figure in the mirror smiled before I did. "You left me," it said. Memories flooded back, things I had buried deep. The accident, the fire, how I ran while someone screamed my name from below. The mirror cracked. Something stepped out. I woke up on the basement floor. The mirror was gone. The scratches were gone. The room was clean, empty. I rushed upstairs, desperate to escape, but the front door wouldn't open. Outside, I heard footsteps. The landlord stood there, unlocking the door from the outside. He smiled this time. "You finally switched places," he said. I screamed, but no sound came out. As he walked away, I caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror, standing upstairs, free, eyes normal again. The basement door closed. At midnight, I started knocking. The message arrived at 3:17 a.m. Unknown, why did you give them my room? I stared at my phone, confused. I lived alone in an apartment building with only 12 rooms on my floor. I replied, thinking it was a wrong number. "Me. Sorry, you have the wrong person." The typing bubble appeared immediately. "Unknown, no. You live in room 12. I lived in room 13. There was no room 13. Our building skipped that number, like most old places trying to avoid bad luck." I stepped into the hallway and checked the doors. Room 11, room 12, then the stairwell. No room 13. My phone vibrated again. "Unknown, they sealed it after I died." I laughed nervously and locked my door. Still, sleep refused to come. Around 4 a.m., I heard something heavy being dragged behind the wall I shared with the stairwell. Slow, wet, endless. At dawn, I asked the security guard about room 13. He froze. "That room was removed 10 years ago," he whispered. A tenant disappeared. They said he kept texting people who lived next door. That night, the message came again. "Unknown, you're sleeping too close to the wall." A soft knocking followed. Not on my door, on the wall beside my bed. The knocking continued all night. 3 taps, a pause, then one long scrape. I moved my bed to the other side of the room, but the sound followed. At 2 a.m., my phone lit up. "Unknown, you moved the bed. Smart, but you're still close." I didn't reply. Instead, I turned on the flashlight and pressed my ear to the wall. I could hear breathing. Dry, strained, like lungs that hadn't worked properly in years. In the morning, I noticed cracks forming in the paint, thin lines spreading outward like veins. When I touched one, my finger came back dusty and warm. That evening, I received a photo. It showed my bedroom, taken from inside the wall. The next message read, "They trapped me here when I tried to leave." I confronted the building manager. He denied everything, but his hands shook as he spoke. "If you hear him," he said quietly, "do not answer. He learns your habits." That night, the wall bulged inward. A hand pressed against it from the other side, stretching the paint until it tore. The fingers were long and burned black. My phone buzzed one last time. "Unknown, open it. I'm running out of space." The wall cracked open just after midnight. Dust poured onto the floor as a narrow gap appeared, revealing darkness beyond. A smell of smoke and rot filled the room. My phone vibrated again, screen flickering. "Unknown, thank you." The gap widened, forming a doorway that had never existed before. A faded number was carved above it. 13. Inside was a small room. Charred walls, a melted ceiling light, and bones scattered across the floor. In the center stood a man-shaped figure, His body burned and broken, skin fused with ash. "You took my place," he said without moving his mouth. I backed away, but the door behind me vanished. The room began to shrink, walls closing in slowly, breathing with each movement. "You live here now," the figure whispered. "I get your room. Your name." I felt the walls press against my chest. My phone buzzed again. "Me? Please stop." "Unknown." I did. 10 years ago. The walls snapped shut. Everything went dark. The morning sunlight woke me. I was lying on my bed in room 12. The wall was solid again. No cracks. No doorway. I laughed, relieved, convincing myself it was a nightmare. Then my phone vibrated. Building notice. "Welcome to your new residence. Room 13. I ran into the hallway. The doors had changed. Room 11. Room 12. Room 13. Room 12 was empty. A young man unlocked it and stepped inside my apartment. He looked confused, just like I had been. That night, I tried screaming, but my voice barely reached the wall. I pressed my hands against it, feeling the heat of someone sleeping on the other side. I found an old phone on the floor beside me. One contact saved. "Neighbor." At 3:17 a.m., I sent the first message. "Why did you give them my room?" The house was cheap for a reason. It stood alone at the edge of Blackwood Lane, far from the town lights, surrounded by dead trees and silence, so heavy it felt alive. The realtor never stepped inside with me. He handed over the keys and said, "If the house talks to you, don't answer." I laughed. Houses don't talk. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. No insects. No wind. Even my phone signal vanished. At exactly 1:11 a.m., I heard a soft voice whisper my name. Not from outside. From inside the walls. I sat up, heart racing. "Hello," I whispered before I could stop myself. The house creaked loudly, as if reacting. The walls groaned, and the whisper returned, closer this time. "Thank you for answering." I didn't sleep after that. Over the next few days, strange things happened. Doors closed on their own. Lights flickered when I spoke. Whenever I thought something, really thought it, the house responded. I thought about being cold, and the heater turned on. I thought about leaving, and the front door slammed shut. On the fourth night, I noticed writing forming on the wall of the hallway. Dark stains seeped through the paint, slowly shaping words. "You can stay." I packed my bags immediately. As I reached for the door, a loud crack echoed through the house. The door frame twisted inward like it was breathing. Another sentence appeared on the wall. "Or you can join them." I had no idea who they were. I was about to find out. The basement door appeared overnight. I was certain it hadn't been there before. The house was small. I knew every corner. Yet there it was at the end of the hallway. Old wood, rusted handle, and a faint red glow leaking from underneath. The whispers came from below. Not one voice. Many. They cried, begged, laughed, and screamed all at once, overlapping like broken recordings. When I touched the handle, my head filled with images. People standing exactly where I stood now. Fear frozen on their faces. The house spoke again. They answered too. The basement stairs descended deeper than possible. The walls were covered in handprints, some small, some large, all burned into the wood. At the bottom, I found a room filled with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different version of me. One was crying. One was smiling. One was screaming silently as shadows pulled him backward. Behind me, the whispers stopped. I turned. A man stood there, pale and hollow-eyed. His mouth opened, but the house spoke through him. "We needed a listener." "You listened." The mirrors began to crack. From inside them, hands pushed outward, bending the glass. "You gave us permission," the house whispered. "Now you must stay." I ran up the stairs, but the hallway stretched endlessly. Doors appeared that hadn't existed before. From each one, I heard my own voice calling for help. I reached my bedroom and slammed the door shut. The walls pulsed. Something was learning my shape. I discovered the truth in an old journal hidden beneath the floorboards. The house had been built over a mass grave, a place where people were brought to be silenced, forgotten by the town, erased from memory. The house fed on voices, thoughts, fear. Every person who answered became part of it. I wasn't the first. I wouldn't be the last. The journal ended mid-sentence, the final words smeared in dried blood. Do not let it hear your. The lights went out. The house screamed. Walls split open, revealing faces trapped inside. Eyes wide, mouths open, forever frozen in the moment they realized escape was impossible. They begged me not to fight. It hurts less if you accept it. The house began to speak using my voice now. Perfectly. Mocking me. Repeating my thoughts before I finished thinking them. I tried to stay silent, but silence was impossible. Even fear was a sound to the house. The mirrors returned, surrounding me. This time, they showed my future, my face pressed into the wall, eyes lifeless, whispering to the next tenant. The house leaned inward. You belong to me. I felt myself slipping, my thoughts slowing, my voice fading. Then I remembered the warning. If the house talks to you, don't answer. I screamed into the void instead. The house went quiet. For the first time, it didn't respond. The walls stopped breathing. The whispers faded. The mirrors shattered, leaving only darkness. I ran, through the front door, down the lane, never looking back. Blackwood Lane was gone the next morning. No house, no road, no record it ever existed. Months later, I moved into a new apartment. Life felt normal again. Safe. Until one night, at 1:11 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown. You hear us now. The walls of my apartment creaked softly. A familiar warmth spread through them. I realized then, the house hadn't let me go. It had learned my voice. And now, wherever I live, it listens. I never believed in haunted buildings until I found room 404. The hotel was old, standing alone beside a forgotten highway, its neon sign flickering like it was struggling to stay alive. I checked in late at night, exhausted and desperate for sleep. The receptionist, a pale woman with hollow eyes, avoided my gaze as she slid the key across the counter. 4th floor, she whispered. But don't open any door that wasn't there before. I laughed it off. Old places always came with weird warnings. The hallway on the 4th floor smelled of damp wood and dust. Doors lined both sides, numbered neatly. 401, 402, 403, then suddenly 405. I paused. Something felt wrong. There was number 404. I shook my head and walked to my room. Inside, the silence felt heavy, like the air itself was watching me. Around 2:17 a.m., a soft knocking echoed through the room. Knock, knock, knock. I sat up in bed, heart racing. No one should be visiting at that hour. The knocking came again, slower this time, almost patient. I opened the door. The hallway looked different. The lights were dimmer, and the walls seemed longer, stretching unnaturally. And right across from my room was a door that hadn't been there before. Room 404. Its paint was cracked, the number scratched in deep, uneven lines. A cold wave washed over me. I was sure that door hadn't existed earlier. As I stared, the handle slowly began to turn. I stepped back, frozen. The door creaked open just an inch, and from inside came a smell of rot and something metallic, like blood. A whisper slipped through the gap. Come in, you're late. I slammed my door shut and locked it, my hands shaking. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Every few minutes, I heard footsteps pacing outside, stopping right in front of my door. And then a voice, softer now, almost sad. You opened it once. You'll open it again. When morning came, I rushed out, desperate to leave. But when I looked across the hall, room 404 was gone. Only an empty stretch of wall remained. I told myself it was a nightmare. But deep inside, I knew something had noticed me. I tried to check out early, but the receptionist frowned when I mentioned room 404. There is no such room, she said flatly. Her fingers tightened around the register. I noticed names written there, hundreds of them, each crossed out in red ink. That night, I couldn't leave. My car wouldn't start. My phone had no signal. The hotel felt like it was sealing itself around me. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the knocking returned. This time, I didn't open the door. Through the thin wood, I heard murmurs, dozens of voices overlapping, crying, laughing, begging. Shadows slid beneath the doorframe, stretching and twisting unnaturally. Then the knocking stopped. I heard my own voice outside. "Open the door. It's me." Tears filled my eyes. I covered my ears, whispering prayers until silence returned. The next day, I explored the hotel. Every guest I met looked exhausted, their eyes sunken like they hadn't slept in years. One man grabbed my arm suddenly. "Have you seen the extra room?" he whispered. "If you have, it's already chosen you." Before I could respond, staff dragged him away, his screams echoing through the halls. That night, curiosity betrayed me. At 2:17 a.m., I opened my door. Room 404 stood there again, wider now, its door fully open. Inside, I saw people standing motionless, their faces frozen in terror. I recognized the man from earlier, his mouth open mid-scream. They weren't alive. They were trapped. A force pulled me forward. I resisted, clawing at the floor. From inside the room, something moved, something tall and wrong, wearing the shapes of human faces like masks. "You stayed," it said. "So you belong." I screamed as darkness swallowed me. I woke up inside room 404. The walls pulsed like they were breathing. The floor felt warm, sticky beneath my hands. The trapped guests stood around me, their eyes following my every move. I tried to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. The creature emerged from the shadows, its body shifting constantly, faces melting into one another. Each face whispered memories, regrets, fears, sins I had buried deep. "I am the room," it said, "and you feed me." I understood then. Room 404 didn't kill people. It consumed their pain and kept them alive, frozen in eternal terror. The door opened. The receptionist stood there, expression empty. "Choose," she said. "One leaves. One stays." Behind her, I saw another guest, a young woman, terrified, unaware. I shook my head, sobbing. "If you don't choose," the creature hissed, "you all stay forever." My hands trembled. I pointed at the woman. The creature smiled. The door slammed shut, and I was thrown back into the hallway. I was free. But as I walked away, I heard her screams echo behind the wall where room 404 once stood. Weeks passed. I told myself I survived, but I couldn't sleep. Every night at 2:17 a.m., I woke up sweating, hearing knocking that wasn't there. One evening, I received a letter. No return address, just an address for a hotel. I didn't want to go, but my feet carried me there anyway. The building looked familiar. Too familiar. Inside, the old receptionist was gone. The manager smiled warmly. "You'll be working nights," he said. I tried to refuse, but the words wouldn't come out. At 2:17 a.m., a guest approached the desk, asking for a room. I handed over a key. "Fourth floor," I whispered. As they walked away, I glanced at the hallway monitor. A new door appeared. Room 404. Behind the desk, my reflection stared back at me, pale, hollow-eyed, smiling. And I finally understood. No one ever really leaves.